Good afternoon, and thank you for attending Police Headquarters. My name is Constable Carolyn DeClute, and I am here today to introduce Gun and Gang Task Force Inspector Peter Moreira, as well as Drug Squad Acting Inspector Steve Watts, who will be updating you on 4 recent projects: Project Aqua, Panda, Gallo, and Drizzle. Beginning will be Gun and Gang Task Force Inspector Peter Moreira.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming. My name is Peter Moreira, and I'm the officer in charge of the Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force. My unit, along with the Toronto Drug Squad, headed by Acting Inspector Steve Watts, form part of the Organized Crime Enforcement Unit. What you're about to hear are a number of projects that fall within our individual mandates and some that we worked on together. In March of this year, the Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force commenced an investigation into information that a male was trafficking narcotics and armed with a number of handguns. The 3-month investigation culminated in the arrest of a suspect and the seizure of the property you see on the table to my far right. On Tuesday, May 23rd, Rayan Naidoo, Naidoo, was taken into custody by members of the Gun and Gang Task Force street enforcement teams in the area of his home, generally in the Lakeshore West and Parklawn Road area of Toronto. He was arrested without incident, despite the fact that we allege that at the time of his arrest, he was armed with a .40 caliber handgun, a Glock 23. This Glock was equipped with a laser sight and had an overcapacity magazine, which was charged with 13 rounds. In addition, Mr. Naidoo was found to be in possession of a box of 20 more rounds of .40 caliber ammunition for that firearm and 33 other rounds of varying calibers. Following his arrest, there was a search warrant conducted at his condo unit. There, we allege we located a Glock 26 handgun loaded with 15 rounds of 9mm ammunition, which again makes it an overcapacity magazine. That firearm was connected to an investigation that we conducted in 2014 of a male named Donald Hare, H-A-R-E. And so that's come back, and we've recovered one more firearm from that investigation. Also located there was quite concerning, a prohibited cylinder drum type magazine capable of holding 50 rounds, and you can see it on the table there. It's obviously a prohibited device. There's also a number of high capacity magazines there, the larger one being a 30 round capacity magazine. And obviously also located were the magazines that actually are manufactured for those handguns. There was 5 of them in total. There's also a bag that was containing a large amount of ammunition. So I'll read out the ammunition. I'll give you a total at the end. We had 99 rounds of 25 caliber ammunition, 333 rounds of 9mm ammunition, 100 rounds of .44 caliber ammunition, 32 rounds of .45 caliber ammunition, 100 rounds of .38 special ammunition, 130 rounds of .380 ammunition, 36 rounds of 7.62 millimeter ammunition, 115 rounds of .357 caliber ammunition, 127 rounds of .40 caliber ammunition, and one 12-gauge shotgun round. In total, that adds to 1,126 rounds of ammunition that we've removed from the streets. There was also a large quantity of illegal narcotics, and you can see some of the drugs on that table as well. In addition, there was a drug press, which is the large black object on the floor there. In total, kind of a conservative figure, the wholesale price of the drugs would total in and around the $300,000 mark. Mr. Naidoo was charged with a number of offenses and appeared in court at Old City Hall, and he remains in custody at this time. Mr. Naidoo was on 3 separate firearms prohibitions from previous interactions with the police. This is typical of the work that is done on a day-to-day basis by members of the Gun and Gang Task Force. There's a number of subunits within the task force that are all working on a variety of investigations with different mandates. And when it comes to this work, much of it is unreported, but I thought that this one was important to bring to the attention of the public, just given the number of rounds of ammunition we seized and the quantity of narcotics and the firearms. But all of this couldn't have been done without the work and the assistance of members of 11, 12, 23, and 31 Division. We thank them for their work. My understanding is we'll take questions at the end once Acting Inspector Watts has updated you on his investigation. And so Inspector Watts will now talk about a joint investigation we conducted.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's my privilege to be here. I would just like to say a couple words in advance. On behalf of the command and the Chief of Toronto Police, and on a personal level, I'd like to thank all the members of the Toronto Drug Squad and the Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force, including all the subsections, for the courageous and very dangerous work that they undertake on a continual basis. As you know, by design, they remain in the background, out of sight, and rightfully shy and away from acknowledgement and praise. So this allows them to be highly successful in their assigned functions. These men and women perform an extremely critical function in the maintenance of public and community safety. It makes our city one of the safest urban environments in North America. So it's my privilege to stand here and stand in front of you, and by the extend to the public, and show some of the important and extensive work that's being done by our units. So the first project I'd like to just give a quick overview of is Project Panda. Project Panda is primarily to my left and your right. This started out as a street-level drug investigation, at the very street level, small amounts, and morphed into a fairly large-scale firearm investigation. It was done in conjunction with the Gun and Gang Firearms Enforcement Unit. There's a total of 9 firearms seized in this investigation, and a total of 125 grams of powder cocaine. We have, I'll go through quickly just the firearms. There's 2 Russian SK assault rifles with 20-round mags. There's a 45 caliber pistol, 357 Magnum, 9mm pistol, a 26 caliber revolver, and a second 45, an Ingram 10 45 caliber auto pistol. We had 4 individuals that were the primary focus of this investigation. Mr. Christopher Zydasevsky, I'll spell that name for you. Surname is Zydacczewski, given one of Christopher with a K, Kristofer. Second individual, Mr. Cody Rose, usual spelling. Ms. Vanessa Burgess, Burgess. And the remaining individual is William Pratt, Mr. William Pratt, Pratt. Of those individuals, Mr. Zydacczewski and Mr. Rose are currently in custody. Mr. Burgess, Miss Burgess, and Mr. Pratt are currently on bail. So, as I said, we can answer questions. I'll answer questions in conjunction with Inspector Moreira in relation to that investigation. Do you want to do that now? Sure, let's do it now.
On Panda,
Sure.
tell us if you can, when did you start the investigation and how did it,
That started in the late summer of 2016. So it started as a street-level drug investigation in downtown Toronto. And it concluded on, I believe, April the 4th of this year.
Can you tell us about Mr. Naidu, what gang he was involved with?
We don't have any specific information that ties him to a particular gang, but he was, we're alleging trafficking large quantities of cocaine to a number of people. the affiliations, I mean, we all like to think that there are very strong, linear kind of affiliations, but the reality is on the street, many people will sell to anyone. And Mr. Naidoo was, we're alleging, one of those people.
In both Drizzle and Panda, which began as drug investigations, in one case it led to the seizure of 1,126 rounds of ammunition. In the other case, 9 high-powered assault rifles or weapons. What's going on as far as the drug culture, and why do these alleged drug dealers arm themselves in such a way?
Well, I don't think this is new. I think that this has been going on for a number of years. I think that we're becoming much more successful in interjecting before these weapons are used. I think that what you're seeing here highlights the type of work that's being done each and every day, the bits of information that our officers are working on. In terms of the public should feel reassured that we are out there working these types of leads to remove these firearms from the streets, but this is not a new phenomenon.
Inspector, with all due respect, when I report tonight that 1,126 rounds of ammunition have been seized from one apartment on the lakeshore,
Yes.
people are not going to feel like, say, parents. Those are the kind of weapons that end up on the street. Innocent people get shot. What do you say to people? What do you say about what was your reaction when you made that search warrant, when you made that discovery?
It was significant. I like you, I'm a parent, and I put myself in the place of somebody hearing about this information. And I can tell you that I felt quite glad that we seized these number of ammunition, these types of rounds off the streets, and including the guns as well. I don't think that when you talk about ammunition, you can buy ammunition almost anywhere. The ammunition paired with illicit guns in the hands of the wrong people are what commits the crimes in the city here, and we're working really hard to try to make a dent in that.
Why does anyone have that much quantity of ammunition?
That's a great question, but I turn it back to the members of the public. People don't have these types of firearms and these types of magazines and the number of rounds to house in a safe. They're showing people. People know these guns exist, and without these tips coming forward, we're unable. It takes us longer to act on this information. But when you pick up the phone and you call Crime Stoppers, or you call a police officer in a division and provide information in certain circumstances where that could be kept confidential, but on a case-by-case basis, I think that those things start to improve the quality of life in this city for people. And this should serve as notice to everyone there. If you know where a gun is right now in this city or anywhere in the GTA, please give us a call. Please call Crime Stoppers. These aren't tips that just go off into Never Land. Someone actually follows up on these things, and we follow up on every bit of information.
So were these two investigations started with a tip? Or were either started with a tip?
Yeah, we received information. Yeah, in a variety of ways. Yeah.
Can you talk about the amount of cash on the table? How much is there?
I'll get that in a minute. That's primarily it's Project Aqua and Project Gallo. I'll speak to Project Aqua, which I believe is just to my right here. This was an investigation with the Toronto Drug Squad. It was some individuals working in partnership, and they're trafficking large amounts of powder cocaine within the Toronto region. On Thursday, March 30th, there was 11 Controlled Drug and Substance Act search warrants executed, and seized from that was a .38 caliber revolver with ammunition, 41 kilograms of powder cocaine, cocaine press plates, approximately $324,000 in cash, and 2 motor vehicles. And in that investigation, there's 8 individuals charged. I'm not going to go through all the names. You guys will get a complete list at the conclusion here, so no sense to me going through all the names up here. That investigation commenced in November of 2016, and it was within the GTA area. And it was, as I said, basically it was very high level, actually high level trafficking and transporting of powder cocaine. The 2 photos behind here are showing a trap vehicle. There are photos of the trap that was in where the product was located, as well as the firearm. So we've been seeing those now, for the last couple decades, but they're more prevalent. So that speaks to the table to my right. Is there any questions on that?
Where was the cocaine going to and coming from?
Well, I would say it's pretty common knowledge. Primarily, most of the cocaine's routed up through Mexico. And this was destined within the GTA proper. So this was Toronto, York region addresses. So it was staying within Toronto.
And these cars were crossing the border?
No, I'm not saying that, no. These cars were the cars that the two of the arrested parties were operating.
Is powdered cocaine now the street drug of choice in Toronto? We've heard in a couple of these investigations that's what you're finding.
Always has been, since 1991. I can speak to it since 1991, always has been. A lot of other things, kind of get sexy and get some press every once in a while, but the reality is powder cocaine is king. And I can speak to that since 1991.
Why is that? Why does it stay current and relevant when other drugs come and go?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think it can be, used in a variety of ways, in the sense that some people use cocaine socially. Some people use crack cocaine. Some people cut cocaine with fentanyl. I mean, there's a variety of different applications for it. So there's probably multiple reasons for that. The price point's been pretty consistent for the last, few years. So, anything else with Aqua?
And what is the price point for how is it sold?
Essentially, we look at anywhere between $80 and $120 per gram. If you're looking at the kilogram level, you're looking at 48 to 52,000 per kilo. But most consumers don't have the financial wherewithal, I would suggest, to be purchasing it on that level. So we're looking, once it hits the street, you're averaging $100 per gram.
And people can afford that in Toronto? So this isn't just, these are people with money. You have to be affluent to afford this.
Well, yeah, or you could cook it down to a 40-piece of crack cocaine also, right? And then you pay your $20 or $40. Then you get into that whole avenue of substance abuse. So there's different angles to it. But if you're, hypothetically a white-collar professional and you make $300 plus a year, you can afford $100 a gram. That's not beyond reach.
And how many white-collar professionals in Toronto do you think are using this powdered cocaine?
Oh.
Do they have any idea it's associated with these kinds of guns?
That's a loaded question. I have no response for that, sorry. Anything else for Aqua? Okay.
You guys have chosen to put all these investigations in front of us, what you've seized in front of us right now. Can you talk about strategically why you wanted to do that? Was it some sort of statement about the work that Toronto Police is doing?
Yeah, I think so. Going back to my initial statement, there's a lot of talk, about community safety and public safety, and that is what Toronto Police, and that's what the chief always talks for, and that's what we're striving for. And there's a lot of work, this type of work, that the public never sees. They don't see it when it's happening. They don't see it, maybe a few people see it when it's taken down. They may or may not hear about it in court. So this is just, I want to be clear, this is just, some examples of what our people are doing. Both Peter and my people on every given night are seizing firearms, seizing product and doing search warrants, but it's all operating behind the scenes and it's not necessarily reported in the media. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to kind of show you the first 5 months of 2017 of the type of work that's going on, contributing to the overall community and public safety in the city of Toronto, which makes it as safe as it is.
So has this been an average first couple of months, or is this a large haul? Like, what kind of dent is this putting in?
No, I'd say this is a pretty large haul, but 2016, I stood here before you in October with, I believe it was 78 keys too in October, and prior to that, another 80-plus keys with Project Beyond. So it's consistent, and the gun seizures from the Gun and Gang Task Force are consistently increasing. And, and just to speak to that, the reality is this lifestyle, if an individual chooses to live this lifestyle, when you're operating with this amount of product, when you're transferring or transporting this type of product, firearms are your insurance policy. That is the reality. Firearms, drugs are the commodity, firearms are your insurance to make sure that you or anyone else doesn't take it from myself or whoever's transporting it. So they go hand in hand, and the shootings that are, resulting from that, you also can't even put a number on that, so.
So the police feel, like you said, it's consistent over the past 6 to 12 months. Do you feel like you're making significant gains on these groups, or is it more of the same?
Well, I feel we're absolutely making a difference if you just look at our numbers in terms of the Toronto statistics with homicides and drug-related homicides and shootings in general. I absolutely believe we're making a difference. If this amount of product was on the street and if those firearms were still on the street, I'm going to suggest that it would be a hypothetical, that you give me the number of how many injuries or deaths could have occurred.
The only other thing I wanted to add to that is that these are investigations, and to your point, to your question, these are investigations that we have concluded to the point where we can bring it to the media's attention. I have a number of investigations where we have made arrests, firearms have been seized, but we're just not at the point here where that investigation's progressed to the point where we can inform the public. So this is a snapshot in time, on June 1st. Where do we stand? What have we done? What's the untold amount of hours that have gone into these investigations? And these aren't things that kind of happen. These are things that take a long time to come to fruition. And a 3-month investigation to get that, and the countless months and years in some cases to bring investigations forward. So. It's important to inform the public that this work is going on in the background, where the very visible part of policing, the uniformed officer, is something people want. But this is also something that happens in the background that the public rarely sees. And so we're trying to give a glimpse into that world right now.
What is as Catherine mentioned, it's going to raise a lot of people's eyebrows that 1,000 rounds of ammunition were found in one apartment. What is the biggest hurdle in investigating and seizing this type of home?
The information coming forward. People need to pick up the phone and call Crime Stoppers. I can't stress that enough. It's not just a throwaway comment on the end of every news conference that we do. It means something. Call Crime Stoppers. Call the police officers in your division. And there are certain circumstances where we can take information confidentially. Those circumstances have to be explored on a case-by-case basis, but at least give us that opportunity to explore that with you. Call, tell us what is happening in your community so we can make it safer. There's a number of pieces of information that we receive all the time, and we have to prioritize, and we try to hit the biggest ones we can, the biggest bang for the buck. But there's lots of investigations that take time, and we can be working on multiple different, I have a small group of officers, but they can be working on multiple investigations at one time.
Inspector, maybe there's another way to try and put this in perspective. You talked about it with Mr. Naidu, I think is his name?
Yes.
Of the people you're arresting, how many of them have you seen before? And is there a bit of, I know you don't want to speak to what's happening in the courts, but how concerned are you that these people are reoffending, and many of them, like you said, are on weapons prohibitions already?
I think I'll simply answer that question by saying recidivism is a serious issue in our business.
How many of the people that you've spoken to, there was 8 in one investigation, 3 in one, were already before the, or already out on, maybe on a parole?
I've spoken to Mr. Naidu.
Can all be released after the fact. I have a lot of bodies to go through, so I'll get to Project Gallo.
Okay.
Is that okay? And you guys, I'll get you all that information after. So last, and not least, Project Gallo, which is to my left here. That involved, and I'll just give the highlights of it, 78 kilos of powder cocaine, 44 kilos of MDMA, ecstasy, 3.5 of heroin, a kilogram of fentanyl, which is significant, 1 full kilogram of fentanyl, a kilogram of opium, 112 kilos of marijuana, 11 keys of hash, and sorted smaller amounts. We also seized just under $3 million in cash. And in that investigation, there was also, I believe, 12 firearms. 12 firearms seized in that investigation. Total of 15 accused persons. That investigation commenced in December of 2016 and was completed on May 25th of 2017. So there was, as I said, the overall street total of drugs seized, and I can break it down for you later if you have questions, was in excess of $16 million in street value, as well as the $2.9 million seized. And it was a very substantive investigation, obviously, led by members of Major Project Section, Toronto Drug Squad, and assisted by the Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force with the FEU unit also. So I'll take questions on that if you would like.
Tell us, how did you start that investigation, and what were you looking for?
Well, as my colleague says, information, Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers, and I'll second and I'll support what he says 100%. Crime Stoppers is what makes our investigations go. And there's a reason that the Drug Squad and the Gun and Gang Task Force action a high volume of the Crime Stoppers tips that come through. So just information received, and then old-fashioned police work from that point on. Surveillance, other investigative techniques utilized.
Can you give us a sense of the resources involved in all these investigations and the man hours?
Sure. Well, I can say, I'll let Peter speak to his, but primarily, I would say in the front end or front or middle part of the investigation, you can run a full, proper investigation, with 1 or 2 teams. So you're looking, even say 6 or 12 officers. It's when you get to the takedown stage and you're executing multiple search warrants, that's when you get into more significant personnel and significant resources. So.
In this case, was it a street level drug investigation, or what exactly was the investigation about?
No, the information was of a higher level. Yeah.
These are
So
15 people who were trafficking, not on the street then?
that's right. Yeah.
And what do you allege they were?
Well, when I
What were they
say-
selling to?
Well, they were transporting high levels of cocaine and MDMA. They were also utilizing trapped vehicles. They obviously had access to firearms. So when you say not on the street, they're on the street but at a different level, but they were within the GTA proper, Toronto proper.
$3 million in cash. Speak to
Yeah.
that. What were they? Why did they have all that? Why wouldn't, that's a lot of cash to have.
Drugs, well, yeah, but drugs are a commodity just like anything else, and it's a cash business. There's no debit card required. No debits, no Visa required. Cash, and it's, I don't know, I'll speak to, you've probably heard the saying, MOE, money over everything, right? Money over everything. So however you can make the most money, and drugs, you can make a lot of money because of the nature of the commodity. And you insure that commodity with a firearm, and that's why you end up with the amount of cash that's on this table.
Can you give us a sense of what kind of damage you did to this organization? It looks like a humongous haul here. Did it take them down entirely?
Well, notwithstanding that the cartels in Mexico still exist, obviously. This particular organization, like I said, we took four sections, I'll call them subsections, that I would say we've completely dismantled them in relation to this.
Is that one gang, one alleged gang? Or were they a gang? Were they
One
together?
alleged organization.
One alleged organization.
Yeah.
Do they have a name?
No.
In past recent months, we've seen that people like this are really bragging on social media about the money and their lifestyles. Were we seeing that with these accused?
No, I would say, I can speak to these, I would say, no, not so much. No.
I can say in terms of the gang aspect of it, I'm not speaking to these cases here, but in general, social media is a platform by which they try to exact some influence in the community at large and with people. So they do leverage the social media platforms, a variety of them.
Can you, by any chance, give any detail on that? I know it's before the courts, but like.
You know, Instagram primarily, where there's lots of taunting that goes on and calling people out and those sort of activities. But that's you know, where you used to see graffiti on a wall that would call somebody out in a neighboring a rival gang area. You now have social media being the platform by which those threats are issued now.
So how big a part of your investigation is monitoring that? Are you undercover on social media or just watching that?
No, I mean, we won't speak to any investigative techniques except to say that obviously, not unlike video and, you know, other pieces of evidence that are available to us, we'll look wherever we can get a lead.
Is there a reason, I've been at a couple of news conferences like this, and usually when you ask about the organization or the name of the gang, the officers tend to shy away from naming them specifically. Is there a reason for that?
No, I don't think there's, I think the reality is, it's been my experience, and Peter can jump in here if he wants. It all comes back to money. So what was happening in the 80s and the 90s with, you know, traditional organized crime and with certain gangs that were aligned along certain ethnicities, that may or may not still be the case, but I can tell you that money trumps everything. And so, you know, there's examples, like there's a reason, and I'll just use this hypothetically, it's not referring to this investigation, so you don't have to take it as such. The UN gang, there's a reason it's called the UN gang, right? We have multiple diverse ethnicities that are coming together to make money through criminal enterprise. And it really doesn't matter what your name is or what the name isn't, or if it's at the bottom, it is an organized group of people that are together for the specific intent on making the most money possible. And that's, so it's not, to my point, I can tell you, I've never stood up here and not said a name of a gang or said a name of a group and known it. It's just the way it is.
Are there any specific names of gangs or organizations involved with any of these that you can tell us?
No, there's not. No.
Were there any incidents with any of these takedowns? And if not, how big a deal is that?
Just in terms of,
When you pursued your tactics to take these guys down, I mean, these are heavy power guns. I mean, when the takedown did happen, was there any incidents with confrontation? And if not, I mean, how big of a deal?
Well,
thankful.
yeah, there was no incidents, but it's always, you know, an obvious priority, and I've spoken to the high-risk nature of this. But with, you know, we've used the assistance of the ETF. I know the G&D use ETF. Our officers are highly trained in terms of high-risk takedowns and armed takedowns. So fortunately, there was no incidents, but it's always presents, you know, always presents that possibility, absolutely. And that speaks to the nature of the work.
The only other thing I want to add to that is just in terms of to let the public know, we obviously their safety and our officer safety is a paramount concern. So we will do things in the safest possible way that we possibly can to minimize injuries to anyone involved.
Do you have an approximate value for all four combined, all the street value of the cash, the guns, the drugs, everything?
Okay, well, so 16.1 for that table, which is Gallo, 16.1, plus the cash, which is just under 3 million. Sorry, scrambling here. And, sorry?
Sorry for the math question.
No worries. And then for the table with
You're the one
Aqua.
with the smartphone, are you adding?
The one with Aqua, we're looking at for 4 million, over 4 million in cocaine and 325,000 in cash. So we're up over, not including the G&G table there, so up over 20 million, in excess of 20 million. And just to speak to the kilogram of fentanyl for a second, that's a pretty hot news topic. And that is at issue because 1 kilogram of unadulterated fentanyl, when you start microgramming that out or pointing it out, you're looking at a street value, which explains why fentanyl is becoming as popular as it is. You're looking at a street value of $2.5 million for 1 kilo of fentanyl, as opposed to, kilos of cocaine, which range between 50 and 100. So.
Can you give us a reason that you named these projects? It's always sometimes interesting why you gave them the names.
Yes, I can. Project Aqua was just a derivation of, it was one of the person of interest surnames. It was a derivation on his name. The project Panda was actually the nickname or alias, what he referred to himself as, of one of the individuals arrested in Project Panda. And Project Gallo, we are in 2017, the Chinese lunar calendar, the year of the rooster, a hot rooster. One of the street terms is high heat for high purity cocaine. And just because we're being all inclusive, we put a Portuguese derivation on that with Gallo, defining it chicken as Gallo. So Project Gallo. And I'll let Peter speak to
Drizzle was just take off on a nickname in the project.
A nickname for the accused?
Yes. Well, it's similar to a nickname. It's just it's a takeoff from a nickname that the accused was known by.
Any last questions?
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That concludes today's conference. We have a news release that'll go out with all the information as to those that have been charged and their next court dates.